The culmination of everything we know regarding the Antichrist of Revelation 13 is coming into complete fruition.
I will tell you, I've been watching the dollar for months and months in terms of the US dollar index, and I've never seen it go below $1. It's always been, in fact, the last time I checked it, it was at 104 and some change. It was actually looking pretty strong. It is below $1 right now. It's just been going down. It's at 99.74. Yeah, I mean, it's down, but $4.
I can promise you that the speculative market is basically saying we don't trust the US dollar. And I bet you anything it's dropping on the news of some of these nations, recent nations joining the BRICS effort. I guarantee you that's what's happening. And that actually is a disaster, because there's a point in time, and my Monkey, we've never talked about this. Yeah. Correct me if you disagree with me. I think there's a dollar number, or there's a figure. I don't know what that figure is. It could be 90 cents. It could be 89 cents. It could be, 94 cents. I don't know what that number is, but there's a number where that dollar is going to drop at. And when that number hits, it's going to trigger the hell that we're actually predicting.
Yeah, it's going to free fall. I mean, I think beyond that, it'll start to collapse, because the value will drop to where it's going to be like the peso, this is a killer in terms of economy. And I mean, you talk about just taking, we're going to have hyperinflation. You're going to have a dollar that is so watered down. It's going to be, I mean, if you know anything about, in Mexico, trying to buy something with a peso, it's, you have to have a lot of them to get something, right? If you go look at any country like Venezuela or Brazil, Argentina, who have been through collapses, and you know what it costs them to go get a loaf of bread, because their money system just vanished overnight. And so Sri Lanka, I mean, there's so many different countries that are experiencing this in our lifetime that, this is going to get really, really interesting. What they're going to do is they'll try to probably, if I had to guess, accelerate the digital dollar to try to, offset all of this.
I think so. And actually, me and you are of the persuasion that this is true, because we've been warning people about it and talking people about it. I think that on purpose they're tanking the dollar, and I think that the reason why they're tanking the dollar is because they want to go to CBDCs. They want to go to central bank digital currencies. And here's the thing that people don't realize about central bank digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies have nothing to do with personal exchange, right? Yeah. People think that they do. They think that, it's a new sort of a credit system that gets built in your account and you all of a sudden eliminate cash. No, CBDCs address the bank-to-bank relationships with financial transfers. And the reason why that becomes a big deal is because it starts to eliminate exchange rates. And then when you start getting into the idea of guaranteeing deposits, right? When somebody comes and there's a bank run, you no longer face yourself with the situation where you sell off treasury notes to be able, on pennies on the dollar, by the way, to be able to accommodate having to meet the demand for depositors that come back and say they want their money. Most people aren't even thinking about that right now because of the promises that FDIC has made, especially in bailing out the last couple of banks. But what begins to happen when that takes place is you begin to develop a system amongst all of the banks, once they're there, to bring into play what the International Monetary Fund actually is looking at doing right now. You begin to get the IMF involved, which, by the way, is working hand in hand with the EU. It's working hand in hand with the UN. It's working hand in hand in many ways with the deep state. The deep state doesn't even know it. And when you start even looking at clandestine operations, that function, like take, for example, our own clandestine operators like the CIA and all those other people, those guys actually love what's going on because they want to be able to generate an undercurrent black market type that can't be traced, and they want to make it inaccessible to the average person. This is like a crazy picture. Like what we're looking at right now is the literal sabotage of our nation's full-blown economic infrastructure in the attempt to get a globalization of world currencies. The idea here is, and this is the more simplistic way of putting it, the more simple way of putting it, it eliminates exchange rates. You no longer have an exchange rate. It levels the playing field, and the moment you eliminate an exchange rate, is the very moment you begin to see things blow up in ways you never thought possible. Because how do you deal with the inconsistencies that come as a result of a particular manifestation? How do you say, well, your exchange rate was 10 times higher than mine, so I'm going to compensate you by giving you more on the back end? CBDCs don't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So then they're going to say, well, the way that we can make up for that is we'll give you more social creds. We'll give you more of a credential that allows you to do a little bit more. And we end up becoming China. And that's exactly where we're going right now. I don't think people understand the severity of this. They are now beginning to say that gold is not a viable tool for backing currency.
Huh?
Yes. They are now beginning to argue at a level that is related to a similar asset that the IMF has been pushing.
What is that? Moon dust?
A cashless asset, bro.
Like a Bitcoin kind of thing.
They are looking to go to something very similar to a central banking digital currency in order to provide a backing. They refuse to call it a fiat currency because they're not going to call it that. They're going to call it a whole new system of currency exchange. And by the way, lots of people are beginning to talk about it now. Some of the bigger, more reputable financial people are beginning to actually talk about it right now. And these are people that are even in mainstream media, which is like unbelievable. Probably one of the best written articles on the subject is Zero Hedge. The folks over at Zero Hedge have done some really good analysis on it. But they're beginning to walk away from the gold standard.
That's interesting. That's a very quick change, and that's probably because they're realizing that they don't have enough gold to do the standard.
That's the point. That's the premise behind the conversation.
Yeah, we gave up our gold a long time ago. I guarantee Fort Knox has got probably very little in it.
But that's their whole point. Their whole point is the overwhelming majority of those who possess gold is going to be found or tied to U.S. assets. So they don't want an association with U.S. assets. So now they're talking about a single digital currency that eliminates the dangers of a typical fiat currency by not having anything that's traditionally backed. It's really interesting what they're talking about, and it's a new product, and it is a antichrist product, bro. I'm telling you that right now. If it does go to that, you're going to see a fast track.
This is getting really, really nutty.
Well, remember that Unicoin that the IMF has been touting?
Introducing Unicoin, the world's first equity-backed, dividend-paying cryptocurrency.
This IMF thing that they're actually now beginning to propose is the ends of the mean that's created through CBDC. You cannot produce a Unicoin and make that available for general exchange if you don't have a back end that's regulated through a government-backed currency. That's the thing that people don't get.
Yeah.
And that's where this thing gets really, really crazy.
Yeah, it do. That's for sure, man. This is that like you threw me off completely because I thought these guys are going to do gold standard, bring it back. But then you're right. Now that you start thinking about how this is all going to flow and into that beast system, gold, they don't care.
Bro, they hustled people in using the premise of the gold standard. And the reason why they did that is because of the stability element that creates. Hey, you don't have to worry about the dangers of a fiat currency like the petrodollar, as they would call it. The U.S. currency is something that's becoming more and more and more and more and more and more and more unreliable. So let's not pay attention to any of that right now. That's what they're saying. Let's go to something that's gold-backed. Let's not rely on something that's fiat. And then they begin to realize, well, all of the gold backing that we would actually create the calculation for is going to work against us because it's in possession of the United States.
Hang on. Okay. Now it makes sense. World Economic Forum just came out with this chip that's going to go in your hand. That's going to be the digital currency.
Why do you think I sent you the little poo-poo emoji, dude, when you sent me that article?
I got you now. Oh, wow.
It's all about that, bro. What they're doing is they're taking pieces of the puzzle and they're putting them all together before the nations come together and decide
they're going to have the solution. Baked in.
That's right.
They're going to go, watch how this works. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's crazy when you start talking about digital currency. they can stop you if they decide, no, you know what, you have mental health issues. You no longer, because of digital currency,
In a second.
you can't buy ammo. You can't buy a gun. They go, well, you know what? You are, you're watching stuff on TV you shouldn't be watching, and they shut it down. They pull your, this is, wow. You only have access to stuff that they allow you to have access to. So if you're not thinking the way you should be thinking, then you're basically cut off from the thing that's making you not think right.
I'm telling you, bro, the depths of this is crazy.